React to this video. It's by Don Andre Investigations. It's called Florida Cop and Attorney Get Owned During a Deposition. Fisherman represents himself during a lawsuit. So, couple things right off the bat. First, somebody's representing themselves pro se. Very interesting, and they are taking a deposition. So a pro se person taking a deposition. This should be good. Let's jump right into it. Make sure y'all go check out Don Andre Investigations. And as always, make sure y'all go check out the person whose channel we are reacting to. Again, this is Don Andre Investigations. Let's get started.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Boom, perfect timing.
At what point was I trespassing?
Mr. Taylor, if you had just showed us some identification, this all could have been a...
Okay, this is going to be great.
According to the lawsuit, fisherman and open carry activist Michael Taylor was walking south on the Oliver Bridge overpass towards his fishing destination located at the inlet near the bridge underpass. Mr. Taylor was observably wearing fishing attire, a fishing backpack containing a tackle box and other fishing gear, and holding a fishing pole in his left hand. Mr. Taylor was holding a camera in his right hand. He was also openly carrying two firearms, a AR-15 rifle slung across his chest, barrel facing the ground, and a Glock 23 handgun holstered on his hip. Officer Kuncas would approach Mr. Taylor on foot and would reach for Mr. Taylor's firearm. Mr. Taylor would vocally object and would explain to Officer Kuncas that he is lawfully open carrying while engaged in fishing, hunting, and camping. After a brief back and forth, Officer Kuncas would handcuff Mr. Taylor's hands behind his back and arrest him.
Woke up, I was going to go down fishing in Miami, and I was going to the Oliver Canal, Oliver Inlet, and there's two sides. There's the north side, which is, I believe, ran by Miami, and the south side of that bridge is ran by Bell Harbor. So I went out to try to fish the jetty initially, and when I got there, there was a no fishing sign at the inlet. All the way to the tip of the inlet, there's a no fishing sign. I'm like, okay, whatever. I proceeded to move just like I always do. As soon as I get into a body of water, I get a line in the water, toss the line in the water, ended up going back to the car to pick something up. I can't remember if it was a drink or something. I forgot something in the car. And so on my way back to the car, I ended up, putting my stuff back in my bag and proceeded to go up and over the Oliver to the Bell Harbor side. And before I even got there, I see him coming, and I'm like, all right, here we go. And I have stuff in my hands. I've got a flag, fishing pole, and a GoPro in my hand. So my hands are pretty full, and they approach, and Officer Kuncas comes right out of the car, and it's like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, hey, I'm about to go fishing. And he just reaches out and tries to grab my gun. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I say my Fourth Amendment. And that was one of the scariest things when he was just like, yeah, whatever. And I'm just like, this is not going to go well.
Don't believe Trump when he plays dumb on Project 2025. He knows exactly what it is.
Most people have no clue that in 2024, the best way to make money with Amazon is not with...
Yeah, whatever. And I'm just like, this is not going to go well.
Oh, what? Yeah. I was going fishing, man. Whoa. Hey, hold on. I do not... Huh? My Fourth Amendment right.
Everybody, let's remember what the Fourth Amendment is. It's prevention against unreasonable search and seizures. Generally, police officers need reasonable suspicion to temporarily detain you to conduct an investigation. They need probable cause to arrest you. And I anticipate what Michael's going to say is because he is fishing, so therefore he is allowed to openly carry this firearm in Florida. He is not breaking any law. Therefore, there's no reasonable suspicion to temporarily get detained by this officer, and there's certainly not probable cause to get arrested. At least that's what I would guess.
My Fourth Amendment right.
At this point, Officer Kuncas restricted Mr. Taylor's freedom of movement by exercising a physical show of force on Mr. Taylor and his firearm, thereby detaining Mr. Taylor or denying him the right to liberty without affording him due process.
That's right. So if you are detained, even temporarily, you need at least reasonable suspicion. If you are detained without reasonable suspicion, that is a violation of your Fourth Amendment.
Hold on. I don't consent to any of this, man. I'm going fishing. Look up 790.25, section 3, subsection H. It's not about who I voted for, man. While I'm engaged in fishing, hunting, and camping, I'm allowed to do this. Look up.
Don't you think you're going to get people really excited about?
I'm not worried about what.
Weapons around.
Hey, look, this is my constitutional right.
Michael's right. If it's legal, him getting other people riled up is none of his business. And getting other people riled up, although very uncomfortable or potentially uncomfortable, does not mean that he's committing a crime.
Oath to uphold this right.
Okay,
Hey, look, guys. I'm not. Look, you're not wearing a mask, dude. I'm trying to.
Neither were you. Neither were you.
You guys approached
We're walking
me.
and talking, so I don't have it on.
All right, hold on.
Okay, it's an
Hold on.
emergency.
No, it's not an emergency.
Yes, it is.
I'm not doing nothing to nobody. While you're engaged in fishing, hunting, and camping.
Okay, let's go talk about fishing first. There's no fishing on the jetty. There's no fishing under the bridge.
Dude, you can't fish over here? On either one of these sides. There's people fishing right now.
No, there's no one fishing right now.
Oh, yeah, they are.
No, they aren't.
I just saw them. I
here.
came over this
Maybe
bridge.
on the other side, but not on the other side.
Well, then I'm going to walk away.
This is actually a very interesting legal hypothetical. What if there was no fishing? He was on his way to go fish, but for whatever reason, maybe fishing is outlawed on this specific time or day or part of the season. Did he still have the intent to go fish? And if he had the intent to go fish, is his carrying of a firearm legal in this manner? Meaning simply, would have Michael's mistake that he could have fished excused him and allowed him to open carry under this law? I wonder if this is going to be an angle that's addressed later down the line.
No,
Why not?
because I'm not doing anything unlawful.
Well, how am I going to know that you have the right to carry these weapons if you don't have your identification?
901, 150.
This guy is a walking encyclopedia, and to be fair, you really should be a walking encyclopedia if you are going to carry firearms in this manner, because let's be real, it is going to attract this attention. Now, I'm not saying it's right for the police officer to blatantly stop you, but come on, let's get real here. Now, the problem with this officer's argument is there is no offense that he can articulate if he was going to go fish. So if there was no offense that he can articulate that have reasonable suspicion for, he doesn't need to or shouldn't ID him, because there's no point.
I don't know what that is. See, wait a second. We're talking a second.
No, I don't want to talk to
You're
you.
causing complaints.
Hold on,
I have to answer the complaints, and
Hold
you're
on.
causing complaints.
But that's not Michael's problem. I get it. The complaints. People might call and say, hey, there's somebody with a big firearm fishing. Doesn't make it illegal and doesn't make it Michael's problem.
Am I being detained?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You don't have to answer any questions, but you do have to identify yourself.
No, I do not.
Yes, you do.
Under what
Yes,
law?
you do.
901, 151.
Public order.
No.
Yes.
Public order. The public order needs to be lawful. If it's a non-lawful, if it's an unlawful public order, it's not a valid public order. So here Michael's position is the order is unlawful, and if the order is unlawful, he doesn't have to identify himself, because if you think about it, then the police could just make anything an order and you would have to do it.
Yes.
No, you're both wrong. Yes.
I can't believe you.
I need to get your state attorney on the
Okay,
phone.
my name's right here.
State
Okay.
attorney.
All right. There, go ahead.
Oh, I don't care about your sergeant. Get your state attorney. State attorney. Right now, I am telling you what I am doing is lawful.
And notice how he's clearly detained. He is clearly detained. He's surrounded by 4 police officers. He is not free to leave.
And so they surround me, and I'm sitting there trying to explain, hey, I'm trying to go fishing. I'm like, I saw people fishing. That's the only reason I'm coming over here to go fishing. And the one thing about all of it is that I wasn't even there. So if they're like, hey, there's no fishing, I'm like, yeah, I'll turn around and go away. And I tried to do that, but they were like, no, you're under arrest.
What were the charges?
They charged me with open carry, which is 790.053 of the Florida statutes, and resisting without violence, which is always, it's something that they seem to like to do to anybody that has a disagreement with them. If they're not, it's not that I wouldn't comply with them. I was just telling them that I was doing something lawful. And because I was telling them all that, they didn't like it. So when they arrested me, they hit me with that secondary charge.
The trumped up up charges against Michael Taylor would eventually be dropped, and about a year later, Mr. Taylor would file a lawsuit against Officer Kuncas, citing Second Amendment infringement and several Fourth Amendment violations, such as malicious prosecution, unlawful arrest, unlawful detention, unlawful search, and unlawful seizure. What's unique about Mr. Taylor's lawsuit is that he's a pro se plaintiff, meaning he's not represented by an attorney. Mr. Taylor is representing himself. Michael Taylor questioning Officer Andrew Kuncas during his deposition. How many people get the opportunity to question the person who unlawfully arrested them and violated their rights?
This is going to be great.
All right. Officer Kuncas, how long have you been an officer of Bell Harbor?
Since May of 2011.
Have you worked at any other police department in the state of Florida?
Miami Beach Police Department.
And for how long?
May of 1994 until October 2010.
Have you ever been involved with a lawsuit?
Yes.
When?
In the 1990s.
Do you know what 901.151 of the Florida State?
Okay, Michael is not wasting any time. A very, very brief introduction of the officer, just a very brief employment history, and asking if he's involved in any other lawsuits. If I was taking this deposition, maybe I would have started off with some very open-ended, basic questions that will make them look like fools in the future, such as, officer, do you believe in constitutional rights? Do you believe that constitutional rights should be applied to everybody? Do you believe in upholding the law? Do you believe that if people don't uphold the law, they should be punished? Stuff like that. But Michael's jumping straight into it. Let's see where this goes.
Statutes is.
Yeah, in regards to stopping people and frisking them, detaining them.
Correct. Do you happen to know what 790.25 is?
It has to do with being armed while going on a hunting or fishing expedition.
We'll get to the letters here in a minute, the lettering, but primarily the beginning parts of 790.25. Do you know what that part of the statute? You don't have to give me the verbatim what it says, but just a general consensus what 790.25 says in the Florida statutes.
That it's okay to have a rifle if you're going hunting or fishing.
I'll give you a little insight. 790.25, the beginning parts, just without the letters or the numbers, pertains to possession of a firearm.
All right.
If I was Michael, I would make him read the statute. Pull it up on your screen and say, officer, can you read this for me? Make him read it in the record. And if he refuses to read it to him and then ask, does this sound correct? And he's going to give out some generic answer like, yeah, I guess, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, the officer totally is not doing himself any favors here. He looks like a jerk. He's not making any eye contact. He's not putting time away for this deposition. He's trying to act like, oh, I'm on duty, I'm doing this. It's disrespectful to the court, and if a jury listens to this, it's going to make him look like a jerk.
Do you know what Section 3 of 790.25 says?
No, not exactly.
Section 3 states, and I'm not quoting this, I just want to give you a general idea, but the beginning part says, the provisions of Florida Statute 790.053 and 790.06 do not apply in the following instances. Do you know what 790.053 is?
No.
Make him read it. Pull it up, make him read it. Do not paraphrase. He's doing a great job, actually.
Do you know what 790.06 is?
No.
Someone tried to tell me that washing all of my dishes with filtered water was a waste. Well, let me tell you something.
Every single night. Thank you, God. It's true. The senior food allowance.
Do you know what 790.06 is?
No.
Okay, just so I can give you a little clarity about it, the 790.053 statute pertains to open carry. 790.06 pertains to concealed carry. Is 790.053 in Florida under the Florida statute, is that illegal in Florida?
I was wondering, can a felon carry a firearm while going fishing or hunting?
That wasn't my question.
He's got him so flustered. Yes. Ooh, Michael missed a good chance to snap back. He should have said something like, officer, I know that in your day-to-day life, you're used to asking the questions, but I'm asking the questions here. That's not what I asked.
All right. I'm just wondering. All right, so you have the book in front of you. Go ahead.
Right now I'm asking you questions and I'm just looking to see if you know the answers.
No.
You don't know if open carry is lawful or illegal in the state of Florida?
It's generally not lawful.
Okay. Do you know what the 379 statutes are?
No.
Do you know what 379.105 is?
Nope.
What if I told you that 379.105 is, in a general consensus of this statute, is harassment of fishers or hunters?
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Make him read it. Make him read it, Michael. Come on.
Under that law, there are penalties for harassment of fishers or hunters. Do you know what those penalties are?
No, what are the penalties?
The penalties are a second-degree misdemeanor. Have you ever arrested somebody for a second-degree misdemeanor?
Yes.
Under 379.354 of the Florida statutes, do you know what that is?
No.
379.354, in a general nutshell, it pertains to possession of a fishing license and the authorities that I would have to give said license to. Do you know who would check a fishing license?
Generally, the Fish and Wildlife Commission does that.
And do you know what the FWC in Florida actually stands for?
Florida Wildlife Commission.
It's a Florida and Fish and Wildlife police officer, basically. And they're state oriented, just like state troopers. These are state oriented law enforcement officers.
A completely different agency that just focuses on wildlife.
Right. That's primarily, it's fishing, hunting, game, anything that's wildlife here in the state of Florida, whether it be boars, fish, whatever, it's all covered under them. Under 379 statutes, it primarily deals, or actually it only deals with Florida Wildlife and Commission officers specifically.
I have asked many people for their fishing license.
You have?
Yes, I have.
What authority did you have?
I do it out on the jetty when people are fishing. And I am allowed to ask for it.
Why do you think you have the right to ask for it?
It's a Florida statute. I'm empowered to enforce Florida statutes.
Okay, so Michael's actually doing a good job here. I'm not necessarily convinced on the authority of a police officer to ask for a fisherman's license. I'm not a Florida lawyer. Maybe they can't ask, but regardless, the other statutes are hilarious. Michael should have asked him to read the harassment of a fisherman, and that is why you ask him commitment questions at the beginning, saying, don't you agree people who break the law should be punished? Have him read the statute and then walk him through what they did to Michael.
So essentially, Officer Kuncas is checking people's fishing license, even though he has zero authority to do so. And even if he did find a violation, he would have to ask a different agency to enforce it.
Police can't even run my fishing license. Most of these things are not criminal citations.
Interesting.
Do you know fishing regulations in the state of Florida?
A few of them.
What are those regulations you know?
Size of snooks, lobster season.
Okay. What are the regulations for snook?
Of course this guy knows all of this stuff. He's trying to prove that the officer actually doesn't know these statutes.
The snook has to be between 14 and 29 inches or some approximate size like that. I'd have to refer to the book.
If I was to tell you it was 28 or on the east coast of Florida, it's 28 to 32 inches. And on the west coast, it's 28 to 33 inches. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I would say that sounds reasonable.
Well, that's actually 100% true.
All right.
I love this guy. This guy's awesome. And the cop is not doing himself any favors by how he's acting.
Well, I've never fined anybody for any violation for it.
And just like I questioned him about, what's the size limit on snook? Because he said he's checked people for snook. And he's like 14 to 29. And I'm like, that's not even close. Not even remotely close. He got two inches, right? But if he caught somebody with a 30-inch fish and his 14 to 29 would get actually that person arrested for a felony because it's a federally protected fish. And that's why I was like, you're really pushing the limit on friggin' trying to arrest somebody. He's like, well, I don't really fine them, but you check them. And that's the problem, is that you don't have that authority. But my curiosity with this is, if you don't know, like as you just said, you don't know the law, how can you enforce something that you don't know?
By a careful review of the statute before taking any action.
What a great question by Michael. If you're his lawyer, y'all, what are your next questions going to be? If I'm the lawyer, the questions are, officer, earlier in this deposition, you did not have a specific reference for the codes that I cited. Isn't that correct? Yes, that's correct. Okay, so if you were going to arrest somebody for those codes, shouldn't you have consulted the book before you took action? You get them to commit, and then you use their words against them.
Do you know what the Fourth Amendment is?
Yes.
What is it?
Due process.
This is bad. Okay, saying the Fourth Amendment is due process is extremely vague. So he's going to get this police officer basically admitting that he doesn't know what the Fourth Amendment is.
If I was to tell you that is not correct, and I was to tell you it's unreasonable searches and seizures, allowing myself to be in possession of my personal property, effects, things of that nature, if I told you that, would you believe me?
All right.
Is that a yes or is that a no?
That's an I don't know.
This officer is not doing himself any favors by being a jerk.
I'm looking at the camera, looking at him, looking at his lawyer, and he's just sitting in his car, just like, man, I don't want to be here. And that's why I think this video, people can see it on paper all day, but to see his demeanor is just like the disdain. And it's probably not just me. I'm sure he's done this to numerous other people. You know, it wasn't day one for him. You are not an FWC officer, correct?
No, I'm not.
When you became a police officer, did you swear or affirm that you would uphold and defend the Constitution, the Florida Constitution, and the laws thereof?
Yes.
Do you have your phone with you, or are you on your phone?
No, I'm on a laptop from work.
Okay.
I have my phone with me, yes.
Can you go to Merriam-Webster for me real quick?
No.
Can you please pull out your phone and go to Merriam-Webster for me, please?
He doesn't have to look anything up. He's just here
He doesn't have to look anything up, but you can look it up, put it on your screen, and make him read it.
to answer questions today. So, man, I have no objection. I'll put it up on the screen. I mean, there.
Oh yeah, please.
Journey or excursion undertaken for a specific purpose, group of persons making such a journey.
Okay. We're gonna slow this down a little bit, and we're gonna take this just like 790.25 section 3, and then we have multiple subsections in that. Correct? We have multiple. It's A through a bunch like J or K or way down there. But there's multiple sections of certain definitions of law. Just like in this definition of law or definition, we're going to start at the beginning. The definition of an expedition is a journey or excursion undertaken for a specific purpose. That is the first part. The second part is saying the group of persons making such a journey. The second definition.
So I think where he's trying to go here is the fishing expedition. So even though he might not have been able to fish, like what we were talking about earlier, he was on a fishing expedition.
Efficient promptness, i.e. speed. The third definition, a sending or setting forth. Would you agree as a reasonable person, definition 1, section A, was I on a journey or excursion undertaken for a specific purpose?
So your purpose was eventually to file lawsuits for monetary gain?
He's got him. You know you're doing a good job when they just pull this BS on you. There wouldn't be a lawsuit if his rights weren't violated.
Is that was the purpose?
That wasn't my question. My question was, as a reasonable person, would definition 1, section a journey or excursion undertaken for a specific purpose, would that be a reasonable definition of what I was doing?
Well, there's your ostensible purpose, then there's your actual purpose.
What's the actual purpose?
Well, what was my actual purpose?
Lawsuit.
Do you know how many lawsuits I have?
We know exactly where Trump stands on abortion.
54 years they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did.
Chevy trucks with power you can count on. Capability that doesn't compromise. A hard work.
Do you know how many lawsuits I have?
40.
If I told you I have other than a dismissed lawsuit that I was part of that got dismissed.
I haven't researched you. No, I don't. I have no idea.
Well, you're saying I have 40 and I've got lots of videos. So, okay. So 40, that's what you're saying.
I'm just throwing out a number.
Well, let's keep it realistic. Like if you really think that, that's what I would actually ask is throw out a realistic number. I want to know what you think about this.
All right. What's your next question, sir?
I will say Michael got a little distracted. He did take the bait about him filing a lot of lawsuits. I don't know how many lawsuits this guy has filed, whether it's 0 or 10 or 50 or whatever, but that's irrelevant. Michael should have sat back and said, officer, I'm the one asking questions. That wasn't my original question. What is the definition of an expedition? And do you agree reasonably, was I on an expedition as defined by Merriam-Webster? But that's okay. That's okay. Taking a deposition's hard, man. It gets very emotional. And especially if you don't do it a lot, to stay on track. Michael's doing a pretty good job.
Can you pull up the definition of emergency? The definition is an unforeseen combination of circumstances or the resulting state that calls for immediate action. What was the combination of circumstances that resulted in you had to make immediate action?
You refused to identify yourself while openly carrying firearms.
Before you approached me, what was so necessary that you had to make immediate action?
I was responding to a police complaint.
And what was that complaint?
That there was a man carrying a shotgun.
Really don't know why he referred to it as a shotgun.
So again, this goes back to the same conversation we've been having. Just because somebody made a complaint doesn't necessarily mean that it gives reasonable suspicion for the police officers to temporarily detain you.
But, those are the little things that you have to pay attention to, because those are going to be the slip-ups that matter. And is it lawful to possess a firearm in the state of Florida?
Yes.
Was I carrying my firearm lawfully in the state of Florida?
Yes, although you refused to assist me in determining that with surety.
Once again, I come back to the Fourth Amendment in 901-151. Do you believe I have civil rights?
Yes, you have civil rights.
Do you believe you violated my civil rights?
No, I don't agree.
Okay, you got the officer to commit. The commitment was civil rights were not violated. So then you can walk him through step by step again to where he has no other choice but to say, yes, he violated your civil rights under those definitions.
I'm not sure if you have like little neck movement or something. Please try not to move your head. Please let your client answer.
I'm working on multiple screens.
Oh,
here.
is he going? Did the attorney tip him off?
Do you believe I have civil rights?
Yes, you have civil rights.
Do you believe you violated my civil rights?
No, I don't agree.
Ooh, I don't know. We all know it's improper for an attorney to answer the questions on behalf of the deponent.
Scott, I'm not sure if you have like little neck movement or something. Please try not to move your head. Please let your client answer.
I'm working on multiple screens here, so my head's gonna be moving all the time.
I'm trying to pay attention to him, but I'm also trying to pay attention to you. And when I asked that question, I kind of saw something that I didn't really like. But I'll move forward from that. I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. Can you check anybody carrying a lawful firearm?
You're the only person I've ever seen openly carrying a firearm.
It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
Until you brought your little group later for your further demonstration. I'd never seen anyone openly carrying a firearm in Miami Beach or in Bal Harbor.
That wasn't my question. My question is, can you check anyone carrying a lawful firearm?
Carrying it how?
While they have a concealed weapon, can you check them for said license if they've broken no law?
That is a difficult question to answer because the circumstances change.
Okay, I'll give you a scenario. You pull somebody over for speeding. You ask them, do you have a firearm in the car? They say yes. Do you have the right to check their firearms license?
It depends on where the firearm is.
In their glove compartment.
That would be lawfully carried, so no.
If they were concealed carrying it.
I might check their concealed weapons permit for validity and the firearm for whether it's stolen or not.
Whether it's stolen or not?
Yeah, that's
or
what
just because
do. I hear it on the radio constantly.
Okay, but you're not just checking their concealed weapons permit. You're checking to see if their firearms are stolen.
You check the serial number to make sure that it's not wanted or lost or stolen.
This police officer might just be admitting to additional Fourth Amendment violations. Maybe not relevant in this case, but across the department.
It's something that is commonly done. I hear it on the radio all the time.
Commonly. Is that a policy within Bal Harbor?
It is not a policy in Bal Harbor.
We have a Second Amendment right here. And unless you're doing something unlawful or they have knowledge of you doing something unlawful or any of that, they can't just stop and check to see anything. They can't do it. And even if you're pulled over in a traffic stop, and that's why I pulled up the scenario of a traffic stop, is that you're pulling him over for X, but now you're trying to find out if he's a felon with a gun. And you can't do that. If you were here because of a firearm and he had done something unlawful, that's a whole nother ballgame when there's unlawfulness. But you can't just check some random person. And once again, they probably did the same thing, but I had been arrested. So they were going to run a check on it. And that's just the way the law works. But to run somebody at any willy-nilly, they can't do it. It's not lawful. It violates your Second Amendment right and it violates your Fourth. Did you admit to what I was doing that day? What I was doing was lawful?
No, wasn't lawful.
Did you admit in the video of that day that what I was doing was lawful?
There was such a law that you were quoting, but it didn't apply. We asked you repeatedly to show some identification. You said that we had no right to ask you for it since you were engaged in fishing. I mean, how did I know that you weren't the next Adam Lanza or Salvador Rojas?
That's irrelevant.
Did anybody get shot before I showed up?
No, but no one got shot before Adam Lanza went to the elementary school. No one got shot before Mr. Salvador went to the elementary school.
So from the time I was there until the time I met you, I could have done anything I wanted. I could have hurt people, but I didn't. I was walking with a patriotic flag, a fishing pole, and a GoPro, correct?
That's right.
What part of that for you caused alarm for the citizens?
The AR-15.
A minute ago, you called it a shotgun, so I just want to make sure we're talking about the same firearm.
Yes, you never had a shotgun. You had an AR-15.
What is the rules of trespassing as a law enforcement officer?
To be in a place where you're prohibited from being or you no longer have permission.
And can you ID somebody if they are trespassing?
Well, if you told them your presence here is no longer allowed, you must leave, and they refuse to leave, then that's trespass after warning.
Okay, so perfect. So trespass after warning, you have to give them the option to leave. And then if they do not leave, then you can arrest them, correct?
That's correct.
At what point was I trespassing?
Mr. Taylor, if you had just showed us some identification, this all could have been avoided. But you refused to show identification, saying that since your activity was lawful, which it was.
You just said it wasn't lawful 30 seconds ago. It was lawful because his activity was lawful. You had no reasonable suspicion. If you have no reasonable suspicion, you could not ask for his identification.
Technically, sort of. Your intention was, at least. If you just showed some identification, then that wouldn't... We didn't arrest you for trespassing. We arrested you for resisting an officer without violence.
And open carry.
Yes.
Do you know what happened to those charges?
They were dropped.
Unless I'm breaking the law, I have a right. Those questions that he's answering are a very direct reflect of why I'm suing. I want him to realize what he did was wrong because I can't get him arrested like he arrested me.
Okay, y'all, listen, I was coming into this thinking Michael was going to be one of those weird sovereign citizen wackos. He actually is pretty smart. He's pretty smart. He took a relatively good deposition. Yeah, he might have missed some opportunities to go and get the officer to further commit, which then he could use against him. But at the end of the day, this is a case where, although Michael is probably technically correct, his damages won't be huge, if any. So I anticipate this is a case that he will either win or settle just based on what I've seen, but it's not like he's going to get millions and millions of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But ultimately, yes, he might make the police department pay something, but that's nothing to shake a stick at. He is clearly very passionate about his rights, and the thing about rights is you have them no matter what. They cannot be taken away from you just because somebody misinterprets the law or applies the law incorrectly. So yeah, for whatever it's worth, I hope y'all found that to be an interesting video. I did. I actually really enjoyed it.
I went from